Welcome back to yet another episode of Justice League Revisited, the best companion podcast out there to cover this amazing TV show, according to my mom, who finally found the podcast and she loves it. Joining me on the other side of the Zoom screen, the one, the only, Susan Eisenberg. How's it going?
Things are good. Things are good. I'm glad to see your face.
I know.
It's a good face.
You were in witness protection on the last episode. It was just this blacked out thing, and we had to modulate Susan's voice.
I know. It was weird, right? Because the window shade was open and it kept going from sunny to cloudy. And when it was cloudy, I'd be like in total darkness. But this is better, right? So you can...
Much better,
I mean, the fans can't see us, so it's, there, as long as the audio is okay, that's good.
No. We'll do an episode one of these times. We do video and incorporate it because I'm sure the fans would love to see all the behind the scenes stuff. They can
we'll do that.
Ollie, and they can see Grimlock and our
for sure.
But I want to really quickly address, we had a tweet that I've never in all my life had a tweet just go insanely viral like this one, and we put it out. I just simply shared Collider's post about their top 10 animated series of all times. Boy, did you guys have feelings about that. So I want to make sure a lot of you did notice that it was not us who put the list out. I simply said, we think Justice League is the best one, but we're happy to come in second to Batman the Animated Series. And everyone was like, why is One Punch Man even on here? How did you not include Spider-Man from 1994? And I just want to say, it wasn't us, it was Collider, so direct it at them. But thank you all. This was so much fun to interact, and I tried to like as many of those as I could. I replied to a couple without trying to upset anyone who was either, why isn't this fandom included? Why isn't Powerpuff Girls higher on the ranking? Young Justice is too high. Whatever your opinions are, I love that you all had opinions. I love that you found that post, and hopefully that's brought you to our little show. So this might be your very first episode. So if that's the case, welcome to all of you. And if you're a longtime listener, hello again. We're going to break down the episode, The Terror Beyond. This is a fantastic, I forgot how good this episode is.
Yeah, so good.
When I watched it. So we brought on a very special guest, media mogul, Gregory James Miller, University of Missouri, Columbia alumni, which are automatically he's endeared to me, being a Missouri boy. Former host and editor of IGN, co-founder and CEO of Kinda Funny. Greg, thank you for coming on the show.
Oh my God, James, thank you for having me. And of course, it's always an honor to be in Susan's presence. All right, princess over here. Come on now. Anytime I get a call or a text from her, I'm excited.
Okay, so totally blushing. The folks can't see that, but I'm totally red. But no, this is what I love about my correspondence with Greg Miller. I wrote him and said, would you be on our show? And he said, I'd be honored. And I'm like, oh my God, where's the corsage? I mean, I felt like I was floating, in a Cinderella story.
I'm a nobody. You're Wonder Woman, Susan. All right, like you are legitimately royalty. Anytime you give me the time of day, I'm excited to get something from you.
Oh, you're a doll. You're a doll. And like you, James, like this episode, I saw Dwayne McDuffie's name on the title, and I was like, okay, pull up a chair. This is going to be a good one. And it, I didn't remember it when I first started, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I remember this. And what a joy to revisit this. It was so, so good. And as you said, Dwayne McDuffie wrote it. And I'll let you fill in the rest of this episode, like who's in it and stuff like that.
Yeah. So for those of you keeping score at home, this is episode 15 and 16 of season 2. It's the episodes 41 and 42 of the overall series, the 20th story going forward. The guest list, we have Scott Rummel coming back as Aquaman, Kristen Bauer back as Mira. Jennifer Hale joins us, the very versatile Jennifer Hale as Inza, Oded Fair as Dr. Fate, Mark Hamill as Solomon Grundy. And I love this. I reached out to Dan Reba this afternoon because we have Rob Zombie as It's Thulu. And I was like, how did that happen? And Dan said, honestly, I can't remember how we got him other than he's a big horror fan, and I think it was kind of one of those, hey, maybe we should try Rob. So that Dan didn't have any direct information other than they knew he would be a good fit because he's such a horror fan, and evidently he said yes.
Wow. Okay. See, this is why we have him on speed dial, right?
Yep. He's our go-to source.
And I got to say, I recognized Jennifer right away. I remember Scott was so good in this part that I absolutely believed he was Aquaman. Like he will forever be my Aquaman because boy, that he was so commanding in that role. And I mean, Kristen Bauer, so good as Mira. The two of them were magical. I just completely and totally believed them as those characters. It was just, I loved rewatching it, revisiting it. Greg Miller, your take on this episode.
Oh, I mean, what a dynamite one, right? Thank you for choosing me to be on this episode, right? Because this is one that has stuck with me that entire time.
Really?
And I think it was a similar thing for you, Susan, of starting it up and being like, okay, I kind of remember. I remember this being, why is this a big one? Okay, we're watching. And to get to that punch at the end, right? To have, Hawk Girl go through being Hawk Girl, right? And Grundy being Grundy and get there, just have that amazing moment where she's speaking Grundy to him, right? Where she's trying to boil it down and like, bird nose go smash now, you know what I mean? And then to have it, Grundy, Solomon Grundy, okay? Not the deepest ocean in DC Comics. To have him preparing to die and Hawk Girl crying over him and then have this amazing conversation about what faith is and really just 3 lines about what faith. I mean, like, this is one of those episodes where it just punches up the entire time. Where you're like, wow, this is what animated shows and movies can be.
That's true. And that's one of the things I so fully appreciate, not having grown up with this genre, but I have come to so respect it and appreciate the fans so much more even because it is so moving. It is so touching. Maria in this manages to just break my heart. She was so good. And I have to say, Mark Hamill, I don't know if you know him. He's an actor.
I've heard of him.
Been around a little bit.
He was in Star Trek, wasn't he?
No, Lois and Clark. Lois and Clark. He was in Clark.
That's it. Lois and Clark. He again, what a heartbreaker, that character. And you wouldn't think, but just the simplicity and the sweetness of those scenes just mesmerized me. Yeah, so memorable. So memorable.
Susan, can I ask you a question? You said at the top when you were doing it that you didn't remember it and then it starts going, you do. When you say that, do you mean that from the performance perspective of being behind the microphone, or did you watch Justice League as it happened, like week to week when it was finally airing?
I did watch it as it was happening. And then I think the first time I was on social media, I think it was when I joined Twitter back in the day, I did like a live tweet of the episodes and I would have people watch along and I would do it. And that was so joyful to watch along with the fans.
Oh, for sure.
But I joined Twitter in 2013. So I haven't seen some of these episodes since then. And so it really is memory lane. I mean, it's just like, wow. I remember being in the studio with Scott so vividly because I was just so blown away by his performance. And I remember recording this, and with Dwayne, he would be on the other side of the glass in the booth with us. I mean, not in the booth, but on the other side. And I just, watching him watch us perform his script was really something. And yeah, I mean, I do remember recording this one. I don't know if I remember all of it, but this one I absolutely remember. And I got to say great Hera, and I got to say Hera help, I got to say Hera, invoke Hera a lot. And that became like my go-to. And Dwayne knew that. So he would always throw in Hera's for me.
And that's why there's the great line from Hawk Girl, right? Do you always have to say, do you have to say that all the time?
No, for sure. Because that really became my go-to. And I loved having a go-to. I loved having something that, people will ask me all the time to sign it to say great Hera on, their books or, whatever they're asking me to sign. And so, but to answer your question, I remember recording it. I remember it. And it's been a few days. It's been a few.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because I still have, of course, the card you brought in April 2014. You came to San Francisco and came up on Up at Noon, my old talk show at IGN, and you brought your own Wonder Woman basically headshots and you signed them for the audience. And I still have it, and mine says Great Hera.
Oh, that's so amazing. That's so sweet. And I remember I have that picture me signing the wall. There was a wall at IGN,
Right, yeah, the old
right?
IGN wall. Yeah.
And I just remember being asked about Batman and Wonder Woman and also Superman and Wonder Woman. And I think 52 had come out.
Yep.
And we were talking about that. And I have that picture of you, Greg, of the two of us doing the pose, like I'm doing a pose for, it's just sweet.
Yeah.
It's sweet. The memories of that are just so sweet.
Yeah, that was a super special time for me, right? Because you figure Up at Noon had been cooking for a little over 2 years of that part. And I'm not saying we started by any stretch of the imagination, but I think what you talk about of joining Twitter and stuff, that was still brand new for so many voiceover artists. And I remember bringing you on and Dave Fennoy on and bringing on Rob Paulson. And I remember, Rob being there and like we went and got him lunch and he kept saying, you guys are treating me like a celebrity. You guys are treating, we're like, you're Yakko. You are a celebrity.
Yeah,
like,
but we weren't used to it.
Yeah.
We weren't used to it. And it was like going up to San Francisco for that and being a guest at IGN it did feel like, oh, wow, they know who I am. And there's an audience here. And it felt very heady. I mean, I have to say it left an impression on me, and I'm sure everyone who came into that studio and did your show. And plus, you were one of the first people I knew that like had, I think, 1 million followers. Like you hit the stratosphere. It was like kind of crazy to watch your success grow and see your influence in the arena grow. And it just made me extremely proud to know you because you were always a good guy.
Well, thank you.
Always.
I appreciate that.
I'm curious, Greg, when did you first discover not necessarily the animated series, but Justice League? Were you a DC Comics guy going back? Were you more of a Marvel kid? When did you kind of fall in love with the genre?
Yeah, this is we call this portion the origin story.
Oh, I love that.
And so we want to get your origin story, if you don't mind.
Sure. It's honestly one of those things of I've been a DC Comics kid as long as I can remember. Like like for video games, I have all these stories of like, oh, when I knew I wanted to review video games full time, or the video game that told me where games were going. And as long as I have been around, I've been in Superman PJs and had the superpower action figures. And inevitably, if you get a glass of wine and my mother and we sit around and talk, she's going to bring up when I lost Wonder Woman's lasso in the backyard and we had to call family members over to do like the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids crawl through. And they kept trying to give me gold string. And I'm like, it's not the same. Like, it's been there that entire time, to the point of, James, you call out, of course, me being a Mizzou guy. Like, I think there's a lot tied up in me from just going like, oh, Clark Kent wears glasses. I want to wear glasses. Oh, Clark Kent's a reporter. I want to be a reporter. Like, I've always been one to like a shirt and tie. Now, of course, if you are an audio listener, you don't know I'm not in the best shape, but Superman really doesn't have to work out. So it's like, it wasn't perfectly 1-to-1, but I do think there's a lot of ingrained Greg Miller DNA that is Superman and Wonder Woman and everything else. And so, for me, getting to the animated series was such a dream come true, because you're talking about somebody who was obsessed with Superman and DC Comics the entire way. And so Batman the animated series hits and I'm watching it every day after school at Grandma Miller's and just so into it. And I remember, in your head, in conversations at the comic shop when I'm reading Wizard magazine, just like, why won't they make a Superman one? Why won't they make a Superman? And then they did make the Superman one, and I'll never forget that premiere. And I forget, it was running against something else I wanted, so I had a VCR upstairs recording and a VCR downstairs, and I'd run back and forth. And so then for that to escalate and evolve and stick around and become Justice League, become Justice League Unlimited, become the DC animated universe, I think we're all so spoiled right now as nerds and comic book nerds, or just, pop culture nerds, where superheroes are everywhere. There's a million connected universes. There's all this different stuff. But for me, like, the kid who had a JLA, Grant Morrison JLA mobile that he had gotten when the comic shop down the road closed. Like, I used to sit on my bed and daydream of this stuff. And so when DC started to do it with my guys, with my characters, right? And we had this connected universe that builds upon itself, and to get to Justice League Unlimited. And guess what? Dr. Hamilton's evil and he clones Supergirl. And it was like, what are you talking about? He's been with me forever. This is insane. Like, it was very, very special, this entire run.
I was a little heartbroken when they made him kind of a villain. I was like, oh, he's
100%.
always been super. Because I remember in Action Comics when Superman had the red kryptonite, lost his powers, Emil Hamilton built that metal suit for him with that gorgeous cover by Brett Breeding. I'm like, that's a fantastic cover. And, Emil's always been the good guy. So I was a little upset when he went through in behind Cadmus. So this is all pops and buzzes to Susan. She look at her face.
No, but I love it. I know, but I love it because, you have somebody like you who grew up with this and who has just been such a fan for such a long time. And it means so much. And so much, James. So it's nice to have somebody like-minded on the show. And, I have to say, just as an aside, Greg, watching the photos or video that you share with your son and having him experience things that you meant so much to you as a child and watching him with Ghostbusters or whatever it is, it just melts me.
It's crazy now, right? Of again, have the honor legitimately of knowing you personally, Susan, and have it been that, how much these cartoons meant to me, how much this animated work meant to me, how much your portrayal of Wonder Woman meant to me, and have that connection to you, know what it meant to me, and now be living it with my son again as he starts to fall in love with things. And we had this truly amazing yet bizarre moment where him and I had been watching My Adventures with Superman, the Jack Quaid Superman show. And when we ran out of new episodes for that, I was one Saturday morning, I was like, all right, let's watch Superman. And it was going to be Tim Daly, Adventures of Superman. And we put it on, or animated series, and I put it on, and literally in 3 minutes, he goes, this isn't my Superman. Can we watch the other one? And I'm lucky enough to know Jack Quaid, and I texted him, and I'm like, dude, you're my son's Superman. That's so crazy to see the wheels spin and what it means. And think about when I was watching, Christopher Reeve, sure, but probably Lois and Clark on television, and my parents be like, oh, well, George Reeves will always be my Superman. You know what I mean? You have these connections, these touchstones, and it's wow, that's insane.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, that is. And how cool to have a dad who has Jack Quaid on speed dial.
Sure.
Awesome.
And I've only abused that with you once. I remember one of my college friends, one of his daughters is a Wonder Woman fan. You were nice enough to send her a message. That meant a lot
always. I mean, seriously, that is the least we can do. It's talk about an honor. If you can make somebody's day by doing something, it's why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah. And I think that's what's so fascinating as somebody who's been lucky enough to work with all manner of celebrity, voiceover artists like yourself, actors like yourself are so good about that. And I'm talking about, I remember personally, I'm talking about the first time meeting Rob Paulson, how great he was, right? Maurice, when I talked to Maurice LaMarche, right? And he's Egon, and I'm such a Ghostbusters guy. And he was just, and he called me a mensch once, and I was like, oh my God. You know what I mean? He just called me a mensch. That's amazing. But it was this idea of another voice actor that I'm sure you know well, Roger Craig Smith, right? Sonic the Hedgehog, Batman in the Batman games. Not obviously, rest his soul, Kevin Conroy, but Batman Arkham Origins and now Batman Arkham Shadow. Roger I've known through Up at Noon for a long time as well. And there was a time where we went over to a friend's house for just dinner, and his two boys, who I think at the time were 8 and 6, we'll say, were watching Sonic the Hedgehog. And I was like, oh, do you guys like Sonic the Hedgehog? And they're like, yeah. And so I slyly got on my phone, and I'm like, hey, Roger, I'm at these guys. If you have the time. And he immediately sent back, what's their favorite subject? What do they like to do? What's their favorite food? And I'm like, I got it from the dad, sent it. 5 minutes later, we had in his home booth a message to these kids from Sonic the Hedgehog, and the youngest thought it was the coolest thing in the world, and the oldest got so freaked out he backed up against the wall. How does Sonic know that I like PE? What is going on?
That is so great. And Roger, he's just a love. He's a very extraordinarily talented person. All those people you mentioned, all of them are just special. They're just special dudes. And there are so many special people within that community.
It's crazy.
It's great. It is. And I think so much of it too is it's not based on this. So there's just not as much ego as on camera a lot of times. And we know what it's like to not have, people make a fuss over us sometimes, but a lot of times, in the hierarchy of Hollywood, voice actor used to be the lowest rung. So
Sure.
anyway, I think there's a little bit more humility amongst the community, and but we digress. Okay, back to the episode.
Back to
Terror
the Terror
Beyond.
Beyond, yes. And we should mention, I didn't mention this part, is obviously we said written by Dwayne McDuffie,
Yes.
directed by Butch Lukic. I think whenever I am watching an episode of Justice League and I see written by Dwayne McDuffie, I feel the same way as when I'm watching the 60s Twilight Zone and the name Buck Houghton pops up on there. It's like, this is going to be a great episode. You know, it's one of those things I just correspond. And it is to what we were talking about earlier. We've got these very deep, but very quick mentions of faith, and they discuss it so well in such a brief amount of time. That's, I think, just one of the beauties of Dwayne's writing. He was so adept at putting those themes in, but not hammering them.
No, when you read, when you see this episode, you just feel like you're in the hands of not just a professional, but an expert. You know, you just feel well taken care of. You know the story is going to make sense. You know there's going to be a payoff. You know that the drama is going to unfold in such a way that you are going to be waiting for that, those moments. And he delivers. I mean, he just does. And I have to say, there's so much freaking action in this. And I remember all the ADR from this episode, you know, the fight with Aquaman. I mean, I've seen it over and over. People have posted it, and
no quarter given.
No, it was so good. It was so good. But I do have the question, why didn't, when the League finds Aquaman, why didn't they have a conversation before the fights are started? Like, it's
because there's no time. They keep screaming, "There's no time," and then they fight forever, and then they have the conversation. It was like, Dr. Fate, what are you doing? Just talk.
It made no sense to me, because I was like, okay, and they're supposed to, you know, Wonder Woman is supposed to be so compassionate and so patient and compassionate, and meanwhile she's like, you know, right in there with the fighting. And I thought, where's the part where they start off with the conversation? James, did that jump out at you at all, that they just go right into the fights?
I think it's kind of a twofold. Everyone likes to see superheroes fight. Going back to the first Thing versus Hulk battle in Fantastic Four number 25, that's just something people like to see. Ooh, could Hulk beat Thing? Oh, can Spider-Man beat Daredevil?
So I think all of that.
They it's a little bit of fan service, but also I think you've got Hawkgirl, and they this is one of my favorite Maria-centric episodes, if you want to call it that, because the dialogue they're given, they say so much about her character just in the banter back and forth. Like some of the quotes I wrote down where she says to Superman, "You ever get chafed straddling the fence all the time?" And then they said, "I'll be bad cop." And Wonder Woman goes, "You're always bad cop."
Right.
Just her interactions between, you know, Diana and Shire when they're talking about in the second episode, does that actually give you strength? And you say to her, I can't imagine not having something bigger to believe in, feeling so alone. Just, I think we get so much of Hawkgirl's character. Again, it's a masterclass in character development and writing from Dwayne.
Yep, 100%. But still, I think it would have been better if they had just talked first, fought later.
Of course. How many? Isn't that all of our problems? If we would just talk about them rather than act on them. Yeah, I wrote that down as a note, though, especially for the cliffhanger of like, why do you? If there's time to talk now, why, when your friends showed up, did you not talk right away?
And they immediately got assignments. Like, I'll take this one, you take that one, you take that one. Okay.
But I think an interesting counterbalance that I like to that, right, is, when we get to this fate confrontation, okay, why is it like this? I appreciated in Atlantis when they arrive and talk to Mara, and she greets them with the pleasantries and talks to them as friends. But then as soon as they try to encroach, she puts up the wall, right, of being royalty. You're not on this isn't your planet. This is our world. Like, get out of here. The king will talk to you when he's ready. He'll find you. He'll make a decree to find you. It's like, that's a really nice, quick twist of the character, twist of words to remind you of how she really sees them, that she gives them the grace when they're there, but as soon as it needs to shut down, and then in the, you know, the underwater submarine plane, to have the Javelin, to have Wonder Woman be like, yo, you came at that all wrong. Like, she was royalty and you weren't respectful enough. I like that too.
Yeah. Oh, that exchange. Yeah, that was good also. And Wonder Woman knows what that's like, to of course show deference and everything like that.
Yeah, I think the point, too, of them coming in and just fighting automatically, if you walk into an M.C. Escher painting and someone's blasting yellow energy at a guy you kind of know, you might want to say, excuse me, what's going on? You just kind of jump in and like, whoa, stop it. So torture and...
But they have a history. Like, she knows Aquaman. Like, they all know him. That, you know, they could have had a conversation. It just felt a little, I get what you're saying, but to me, it didn't quite make sense, given that these are superheroes, given that they are peaceful characters, that it would just go right into that. It just threw me a little bit.
Yeah. 2 out of 3 are peaceful. Maria's a little, Hawkgirl's a little, Maria, but Hawkgirl's kind of a hothead.
I know.
So.
She's a hothead and she loves to fight. I mean, that's, you know, and I thought it was so interesting that the connection to Thanagar, and
that was
that
really
she
cool.
was aware of that. And the old ones, was that the name of the enemy?
Yeah.
So is that, are they, like, did you recognize that? Is that something that they've been around before, or is that new to this episode?
I took it as just kind of a generic, because when the face showed up, I thought it was the Lord of Chaos, because they'd already talked about the Lord of Order, and that's, you know, where part of where Dr. Fate gets his power, the Lord of Chaos and Order kind of, you know, grant him his abilities and everything like that. So I thought that was Chaos showing up. I don't know if that was just kind of a generic, because I don't recall, and I guess unless it's like in something deep lore of the New Gods that Jack Kirby did that I didn't dig into enough, I don't recall it being a specific, I think it was created just for this particular DC animated universe. Unless, Greg, you might want to correct me if I'm...
No, I don't. It's one of those, I didn't remember anything about it. I thought it was a nice twist of like, this is why Atlantis is where it is, and a quick summation, right, of Poseidon put it down there when he stopped him. I was like, oh, that's interesting. But yeah, it didn't ring a bell for me in terms of like, oh, these are guys I should know.
Okay. And I love the history. You know, I love that when they're like, yeah, many years ago. You know, I love all that stuff. I can't get enough of it. Okay, so because remember last week or 2 weeks ago, we were talking about how there was it a ring? Was it a diamond? What was it that was evil?
The jewel.
And
the
jewel.
Right.
And we were saying how weird it was that it wasn't like an actual being.
Right.
It was like an object that was evil. And we missed having... You know?
Well, they took care of that this one.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, you had someone to fight here for sure.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I'm just looking at my notes just to make sure.
One thing before we get too far away, we talked about the grand scale of the fights, obviously, but we talked about the you know, actual character moments here. One of the more understated moments that I thought was so cool, and this is just me being a nerd, was on the Javelin, right? Superman changing shirts. Like, it's something you don't see done a lot in superhero cartoons or animated series, period, let alone to see Superman, this one that I think so many people write off as being boring. He's a god, all these different things. To see him having a normal conversation in the back, putting on the shirt, taking off the tunic. He's been smashed with the magic, right? Being bruised, right, too, from getting hit with magic. And then coming in and having Hawkgirl immediately poop on him with the get chafed on the fence. Like, I was like, dang, that's a nice humanizing moment they're doing that, again, isn't this centerpiece, pay attention to it, but just like, yo, these are normal people doing this thing, doing these superhero jobs.
Well, and I also like that the brother-sister quality too. Like, it's like they're, you know, they're just so comfortable with each other. He's just changing clothes. It's like a non-thing. You know, whereas if it were Batman, you know, hello. I mean, right? Am I right?
Wonder Woman pull the plane over, pull the ship over.
Right?
Bruce, do you need help with that shirt? Hawkgirl, take the wheel.
That's great. Okay, so James, any comments? More comments about this ep?
Maybe it's just the mood I'm in. I don't know, but I started getting choked up at the end when she's, you know, standing over Grundy and she says, Grundy, you know, I don't, and he just kind of looks at her and she realizes he needs this comfort. I was like, oh, come on. That was heartbreaking. And it really kind of, it got me right in the throat. I'm like, no, it's just a little salt. That's all I got. Some salt in my eye. Right. That's it. But that was,
I was emotional too.
So
it was
good.
so good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my second bullet point for episode 1, right, is that Grundy looks and acts like my tired toddler. When he's got those like sunken eyes and he doesn't understand, he's angry, he's a ball of emotions, right? And there's this moment when, right before we get the backstory to Grundy, right, Fate grabs his face. And I'm like, oh man, what a thing I have done to my son to calm him down or talk to him, right? So then, yeah, to jump all the way to the second to last bullet point, right, or third last, whatever, where she's crying over him. And yes, like he just wants to know where he's going is where his soul's going to be. And she doesn't believe in it. And so she starts, but then she stops and realizes she's talking to a child or somebody who just needs comfort in that moment. Like what an honest moment, let alone, this internal struggle we've seen through her this entire episode of like, well, why do you do this? What is that? What is faith? And then to have, the pin put on it with her and Aquaman talking at the graveside is amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's not very often you get to face your God. We used to worship you. Yes. We threw you out, as she's being interrogated by him. And again, just because I've got a dorky mind, it reminded me of Star Trek V when they're confronted with what they think might be God. And he just kind of, they're questioning. Kirk says, why does God need a starship? And they realize he's not all powerful. He's not. So it just had that little Star Trek connection for me, which Stan Berkowitz, if you're listening, you'll appreciate that I thought of Star Trek.
And also just the idea of them offering Grundy money, gold. And he's like, he wants his soul back. Like that was so moving to me. It had everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really underrated. I forgot how good the episode is because this isn't one of my go-tos. If Susan, I don't know if I told you, I had the DVDs.
What?
Yeah. So
I don't understand. Back it up.
I'd put in the DVDs and I'd watch, and some of the ones I'd watch over and over and over. They're my go-tos. But this one was one I didn't watch as often. And I'm not sure if it's just I'm a little older now, a little more appreciative of things like that, but it was just so good.
Yeah. I think it hits on so many different levels, right? In terms of all the character stuff we're talking about. And we said the action's great, but like the ones I wrote down is true of like when Superman and Grundy are fighting and they're going up and Superman's like last chance. And then he just flies back down as hard as he can. And like the framing they do of it, the impact that then comes up like an atom bomb mushroom cloud. Like that was great, let alone the entire Wonder Woman Aquaman fight. Again, it starts with the great conversation, but then when Aquaman pulls her down into the water, right? You have Superman going to the heavens and then Aquaman pulling her down. Again, an unspoken thing of it's getting darker, right? As they like you see great. Aquaman smile because he knows and can see underwater where she's going to be lost. Like that's so well done.
That is so smart. Yeah, I didn't have that thought, but that's so true. And it was so well directed. Like there were so many shots in this episode where you're just like, that's masterful. That is just masterful. And, before we forget, James, we did put this on Twitter. So do we want to like just look at the questions and let Greg answer some of the fan questions?
Yeah. We've got at Justin Ruby 94. Says 2 questions. What did you think about the return of Aquaman? Return technically since he was in Superman the Animated Series and he comes back obviously in The Enemy Below. And Dr. Fate. That was directed for Greg.
Yeah, I mean, I love it, of course, right? Like again, this was especially for it being something from Superman the Animated Series. Like you loved the progression of all of this and the feeling of what, when done well, comics get so right, which is continuity, where the years you put into something are still building and paying off somewhere else. And I think it is an episode that you could jump in and not know that Aquaman and Dr. Fate have ever been around before. This could be your introduction to them, and you would get enough to enjoy it, whereas you can also be like, oh, well, I remember them from that. And this is, again, building out that DC animated universe and going as far as you can and getting to this place where you can eventually have the obscene amount of characters in Justice League Unlimited and all the craziness and still have your favorites, but then meet new people. Like this was really well done.
And
we talked about that recently. Remember when we were saying last one of the episodes prior, we were saying Diane Pershing's character with the flower outside, and how great it was for the audience to see these characters from other places and the continuity and just it's such a gift to the fans. Yeah. And I love when shows do that. And I think our show did it I mean, you would tell me, did the show do it a lot where they would do that for the fans? Have those characters in there that you would be like, oh my God, they're so and so.
Yeah, you just mentioned the one we talked about, A Better World, where
A Better World,
Diane
that's it.
Pershing is actually Poison Ivy. She's the groundskeeper of Arkham in the Justice Lord's world. And it's like, oh my gosh, they actually got Diane Pershing to come back for this. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. Anyway, just wanted to mention that. Okay, next question.
Oh, Justin Ruby also had a question. Justin Ruby 94 on Twitter had a question for Susan. How was it recording and seeing the Wonder Woman Aquaman face-off? You kind of addressed this earlier.
Yeah.
I'm sure the ADR was done separately. Scott did his own, you did your own, but recording the lines, and do you think that Aquaman is equally strong as Wonder Woman, or do you think that was just a, here's how I'm going to beat her, I'm going to take her off dry land?
Oh man, she's thinking.
I mean, I don't think he's equally as strong, but that's just because I'm biased. But that was a good tactic, as Greg explained about taking me under. Sure, if you, okay. But I have other gifts, and I can fly and do other things, and I have an invisible jet. You haven't seen it on the show, but it felt. I love this scene. I love the fight scene, and like I said, it's been shown to me so many times, and I see a lot of fans post it, and it always gives me, I always enjoy watching it. And again, I will say Scott was so freaking good as Aquaman. And I just remember thinking, holy cow, I just believe this is him. I sat across from him in the studio recording. And he did so many promos in television at the time. I don't know if he still does, but he was like the CBS announcer. So he would do all those announcements, and he had such gravitas in his voice. And he just captured that royalty so well. And I loved it. So thank you for the question. And I hope I answered it ish. I don't know if I did, but I hope I did.
I think you could have done better, but that's fine. I tease.
Pal.
At Josh_Laborde on Twitter says, Greg, I follow Kind of Funny Vids on Twitter.
Hey.
And know you're a huge Superman fan. I've heard you talk about Superman the Animated Series before, but not Justice League. When it comes to Justice League, what are your touchstones for the series? Favorite or most memorable episodes? Stories that resonate with you? I enjoy hearing your perspective on things.
Thank you, of course, for that. Thank you for caring about Kind of Funny and then following me over here. Man, yeah, I feel it's one of those, I don't mean to brag, Susan, but like James, I have the DVDs. And I remember that being, a staple of because Justice League is happening into college for me. And so it was one of those, picking those up, putting them on it was just that constant background noise. I mean, I'd watch them obviously, but have background noise as well as you sat there and worked on whatever and studied or worked on some project or wrote some article and stuff like that. So for me, it's funny to think of the touchstones for it. Again, it was the evolution of something I never thought I'd see, wanting a Superman show, finally getting it, and to see it continue on and move on the way it did. But what's interesting about it for me is I always talk about being a sucker for story. That's why I love video games, or love the video games I should say. And so when I think about this, right, I think of not the fights, not the big interstellar moments, right? It is those relationships. It is Jon Stewart and Hawkgirl, right? And their will they, won't they, them trying to figure out what they are and why it's going on. Of course, it's Batman and Wonder Woman. It's Superman being a reluctant leader, but being a leader nonetheless, but also that interplay with Batman and how Batman fits into this world of superheroes and all these different things to that regard. It's all of those things. And then honestly, it is, stick with me. It'll be a walk, but all my stories are. I remember.
That's why you're here.
I remember, when I was reading comic books and at the height of my junior high, maybe teens, whatever, it really locked in on comics. And I remember specifically a tie-in after Death and Return of Superman. It was when they dropped the Man of Steel figs, when they were doing the Superman, mullet Superman, Superboy. And there was a tie-in comic that came out with it that was a Toyman thing. and Superman and whoever the toy man set up brawled into a toy shop, and it was a wall of Superman action figures, both the ones that existed and then in this dreamland metropolis of, you know, Crypto and Doomsday. And like it was, and I remember looking at that one panel and being like, man, I wish I lived in that universe just to be able to get those toys. And you jump cut to being at Target on whatever random ass Tuesday night, getting whatever. And I remember going down a toy aisle and it was the Justice League Unlimited series up there, right? Then eventually it would go into the play school stuff they did or whatever, and the Imagine X. And it was that thing of like looking at me like, wow, like we did it. Like we got here where it is one of those things that like, you know, that's a Red Tornado action figure. Like I did not expect to see that in this day and age, right? It's multiple Green Lanterns. It's all these, it's silver, golden age Flash. It's Steel. It's like, wow, like, my touchstones are that like by the time you get to Justice League Unlimited, but even the success of Justice League, it's that idea of like, wow, we did it. Like this is my thing actually being this big thing rather than being the very tiny, you know, fan casting on the Wizard front page.
Right. Which I remember those fan casts very well. Those
had to do it.
Very well done. We've got, let's see here as we scroll down. This one is from @SteelyDill, DYL. What other villains would you have wanted to get a spotlight episode where they team up with the League like Grundy did? Could it be character driven or just an actor you enjoyed? Susan, I feel like that's more maybe geared to you.
Oh, I feel like it's geared to Greg.
It's geared to everybody.
Yeah, Greg can take that because
no,
honestly,
you go first, Susan. I want you to go.
No, you go.
I'm going to go still. I'm just saying you should go
no,
first.
You go. No, I think you should.
Oh,
no,
my
seriously,
goodness.
You go.
You know, it's a great question. And I think if I'm jumping in here and looking at it, I would have loved, I mean, first off, anybody, right? Like you can throw out Lex, like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously I love Lex Luthor. I'd love to see more. We got some of that all the time, but of course, you know, to have Clancy Brown back,
yes.
right? To go out there and rock it, who's killing it on the Penguin. Amazing.
Yes.
To have him would have been great. But like, when I really think about it, I think about like, well, who didn't we see humanized enough? You look at, they took Solomon Grundy and made us cry over him, right? And it's like, I'm then drawn to people like, I think Mr. Freeze has such a tragic backstory that it could have been really cool to see him do something with the League, right, in a more heroic capacity. I think right now, again, with the success of the Penguin and how much I'm enjoying that, to think of what the Penguin was in the Batman animated series / DC universe, it could have been cool to see something there as well. Those villains that maybe weren't one note, but never got a chance to show that backstory of what made them, right? One of the reasons you're watching the Penguin, enjoying it so much, is this deep dive into what Oz was like as a kid and how he was raised and why he's this way. It's like, oh man, like here I am sympathizing with the Penguin. That's weird.
Yeah, I would agree. Susan?
Nope, I'm not going to take this question.
Oh my gosh.
Because honestly, I mean, I just feel like maybe Cheetah, but you know, I mean, I don't know the universe like you do, so it's not like I can, pull these answers out. So I thought Greg answering it was perfect because he knows these characters so much better than I do.
Was there
I don't mean
voice actor, like a villain voice actor you would have rather spent more time in the booth with? We'll kind of couch it.
Oh, well, that's different. Okay, that's different. Does he have to be a villain? Oh, okay. It's funny. I was watching something last night and Ted McGinley was on. I was watching Shrinking, and Ted McGinley's on it, and he was on Justice League a bunch of times, and it was just kind of a fun, thrilling thing to be sitting next to him. But no, back to the topic. Actors, villain, Ed Asner. I mean, that was
Granny
like,
goodness.
what? That was so good with Granny. Like, I loved those. Hades, but creepy, so creepy. Yeah, I mean, by the time we finished Unlimited, didn't we cover most of I just feel like we had so many of the good guys and the bad guys and the good girls and the bad girls. Cheetah, though, was this recurring character for me because I always came up against her in movies, too, like the animated movies. And I don't really, I never felt like there was a deep dive into that dynamic in the show.
I would just say from my personal standpoint, because I loved the original way that Superpowers Galactic Guardians did the story, but also I think with his power set, he'd be a great one to go into. They kind of did it with Dr. Destiny, which is why I was going to like, meh, but I'd love to see Scarecrow from Batman the Animated Series, one of my favorite Bat villains, show up and just really lean into it, have him kind of go after the League, infiltrate the Watchtower somehow. I thought that'd be kind of cool to see just from a fan's perspective. And again, I was such a fan of that Super Friends episode where we get Batman's origin story and we see Crime Alley. And that was, I think, one of just that touchstone moment for me in that series, which I was always a Batman fan, but that just kind of cemented the thought. So that would be my answer.
That's a great answer.
At Girlicello asks, as a fellow fan, what storyline did you want to see played out in the show, either from the comics or your imagination? What makes this iteration of Justice League special to you? Greg?
Wow. Oh, Susan kind of nails it. You all did so much, right? Where it's like, even when it was like, oh man, who would you want to work with or whatever? Like, and Susan's going, I'm like, well, what about Wilfred? Oh no, you did. You crossed over with Batman Beyond, so that you don't have to worry about that. You did. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm always a sucker for Kingdom Come, so I would have loved to have seen some more Kingdom Come stuff in there. I was like, especially for as well as we knew this universe, to see a Crisis jump over, or a future where Superman is rocking that outfit rather than the animated universe black with the white S and the white hair. You know what I mean? I'd love to see a Kingdom Come version of that. Storylines, I guess, to see fleshed out from my mind. Of course, again, Batman, Wonder Woman, I would have loved to have seen them officially shipped, and they're like doing a whole thing and like the dates and then leave, like kind of what we got with Tom King's Bat and Cat, right? Of them getting married in comics and stuff like that. To get Batman and Wonder Woman doing that on the animated series would have been fun. How all the other characters would react to it, like really get into it. But I understand why we did what we did.
Did you feel when it ended, did you feel like, okay, that was a great run? Or did you feel like, as a fan, what? How are they ending it here? When is this going to continue?
I think that's a double-edged sword. Where, of course, as a fan, you're like, what? But they could have done this. They could have. Why did they do Kingdom Come? And they were like, comics are infinite. And you could go on forever, I think, in a million different ways, let alone, again, not even blowing smoke, like how great this cast was and how much y'all got into these characters and really are these characters, right? Like, you are Wonder Woman and Phil is Jon Stewart. Like, obviously Kevin was Batman, is Batman for so many people. Like, there's, in the same way my son's like, oh, Jack Quaid's Superman. Like, these, you were
for
all,
a certain generation, for a certain age person.
But even that, to think about that, right? Where I'm talking about the same universe and I'm like, oh, after school in, I don't even know, 3rd grade, 5th grade, whatever it would have been, 6th grade, I'm going to Grandma Miller's and watching Batman the Animated Series. But then that goes all the way to I'm in college. I'm in college and I have the Justice League DVD. Like, that's more than a generation for people. And so that is so powerful in terms of who these people are and what they got to do. And so, yeah, I would have liked to have seen it go on forever. And every time there's one of these like Crisis on Infinite Earths or just some other animated movies where they bring at least a few of you back to reprise roles, it's always so cool, right? Whenever Michael Rosenbaum puts up a photo of you all at some convention together, I'm always like, yeah, get the band back together. But to sit there and be like, what about, you have to look at this entire run, and I feel include everything that came before Batman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond, Superman, Justice League Unlimited. How greedy can we be?
Right.
Sit there and be like, oh, no, I mean, like, there's so much here. There's so much great stuff here. Like, everyone who is involved with this universe should be so proud of what they did. So, yeah, as a fan, you always want more, but we got so much more than I mean, in another universe, right? No pun intended. Like, it is just Batman the Animated Series, and they never do Superman. They never do any of this. And I am sitting here going, man, it would have been cool to see what that would have become.
Well, and one of the things that has been such a gift to this, of this podcast is showcasing some of the genius behind the shows. Like, one of the things James and I talked about when we started the podcast was we want to have the writers and we want to have the, the directors and the people who aren't normally, Andrea, of course, does so many interviews and she's so well known. but I don't know that Stan Berkowitz has done a ton of interviews, and he's been on the show now many times, and Dan Reba, and now Dan's, we can't even get Dan because he's doing so many Comic-Cons, right, James? And, we just thought it was really, we had dynamic music partners, 2/3 of dynamic, who did the score and the theme and the music.
What a theme.
And what a theme. And just to have showcase those people, because the actors get showcased a lot, and not to say, that they don't deserve to be showcased. I think that we're all so grateful for the magic we were able to create, but we were able to create it because of the writing and because of the directing. And I think about Wonder Woman and so many of her expressions and how much I love when I watch her, and I'm just like, I'm so touched by her. And it has nothing to do with my voice. It's how she was drawn, how she was animated. So it's been such a gift to be able to share that with the fans. Yes, the cast, so grateful, love the cast. But do you know who wrote that episode? We're going to have him on today. I wish I could say we were going to have her on, but we didn't have any female writers on the show. But, it's just been, we have just enjoyed it so much, and we don't even know what we're going to do when we finish Justice League Unlimited. We're going to have to create something else.
You have to go make more shows. You have to go make, get back to work, get Wonder Woman back out there.
If only the actor had control over that.
You're the one holding it up. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Susan's holding out for a larger deal. They've already offered her 7 figures, but she wants to hold out. So,
well, it's so funny. It's like, Susan, I get asked, Susan, would you do, Injustice 3 if they asked you, or would you do, if they asked you to do this? And it's like, of course, there's not even a question. And it's not like we have I'm going to do that, and that, you're just asked so many things, and of course at Warner Brothers, they wanted to spread it out to different talent. They didn't want to keep this group united. Or
they have to pay you more.
Right.
Keep you around. If you're reoccurring that long, you get leverage. They don't want that.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. So have we touched on the questions?
We
James,
did. Yeah. I've got one other, this is more of a comment really. It's user at Nick Cage is awesome, which I would agree. I feel this episode really discussed faith in a constructive, non-preachy way. And then he puts the quote, "It's faith, Hawkgirl. You aren't supposed to understand it. You just have to have it," which is the essence of faith. You sit down in a chair and you have faith that the chair will hold you up. You don't have to inspect the chair to make sure all the bolts are in place. It's just one of those things, which is why they call it faith. And I thought ending with that line with Aquaman saying that, and then the kind of slow pan to Grundy's grave was just, again, so touching.
And so cinematic.
Yeah.
I mean, which we talk about this show all the time, and how it feels like cinema. It doesn't feel like, oh, it's a cute little cartoon. Yeah. Too much talent behind the scenes, creating this that made it that's why we're talking about it all these years later. Right?
Indeed. Yeah, totally.
And Ellen R. Rip, the question you have, these episodes show a different side to Hawkgirl along with a peek into Thanagarian culture. How did this help inform her relationships? That's something we'd love to ask Maria, and we'll, if we have her on, that'll be something we do ask her, but I feel like that's with more geared to her character. I think,
right. Yeah.
But yeah, that's obviously it's, I know Maria is a person of faith, and I think that's,
yes,
I'm sure that helped. She had something to draw on with that too, but I think it's an interesting question that, we think of these larger than life superheroes. They believe in something too. They believe in a higher power. Some of them, whether it's Hera or Cthulhu or Ra or whoever it might be, but it's very, very interesting.
I just remember the spell, when he was reciting the spell, and I remember just being in the studio, and they're just trying to make sense of doing those spells. And as an actor, it's like you just don't want to trip over it. And that it was so well done. Kudos to everyone who had to say that dialogue, because that's not easy dialogue to get out. Anyway, so I think we're almost wrapping up.
Yeah.
Am I correct in that assumption? So
correct.
Before we let you go, Greg Miller, can we ask if there's anything you would like to share with your fans who are listening in? Anything coming up that you can talk about or want to talk about, or also where can people find you if they want to continue this conversation after the show ends and they just want to, be able to follow you and they just think you're a smarty?
Oh, thank you, Susan. I hope somebody feels that way. If you're new to me, I'm at Game Over Greggy on everything. GREGGY, Instagram, Threads, Twitter, Blue Sky, you name it, I'm out there. But more importantly, I am part of an 11-person small business called Kinda Funny, where we do live talk shows all day long on twitch.tv/kindafunnygames, youtube.com/kindafunnygames, and podcast services around the globe. If video games aren't your cup of tea, because we have many video game shows, we have a show called In Review, where we pick movie series, watch all of the movies on our own, come together, review them, rank them, put them into one giant list or whatever. And we are doing The Penguin right now. And I'm not sure when this posts. When does this post?
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah, this is quick.
Awesome. Then you should head over to either Kinda Funny In Review on your favorite podcast service or youtube.com/kindafunnygames and catch our review of The Penguin, which will then enter Batman In Review, where we rank it against all the Batman movies and the Batman cinematic universes. So it'll be a lot of fun over there.
All right. That's awesome. And hopefully there'll be a few people that have heard you here and they're going to join you over there. So
if you're one of my people who came over here, make sure you subscribe to this show and listen in.
Yes,
there's a lot more Justice League coming up.
Thank you. And just again, you know how crazy I am about you. I appreciate you doing this. I appreciate you there wasn't a lot of notice on this invitation. And you just said, sure, tell me when and where, and I will be there. And we just appreciate you being with us today. You're just terrific.
Anytime. You guys need someone to talk about Justice League, I'm here.
Okay. Well, thank you. And now you've met James, so that's wonderful as well.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Greg. And just, have a wonderful night.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Take care.
There he goes. We're going to have him back because that was delightful. He was so, I feel like we could be brothers. We didn't look like he's much better looking, but we could be brothers. That's all I'm saying.
But it was so sweet looking at your face. Like, once again, when a fan is on, to see your face, as Greg was talking about his childhood memories and things that mattered to him from the universe, and seeing your acknowledgement and getting emotional. No, you were just so darling because you were just like acknowledging, you just kept shaking your head with this big smile on your face. It was goofy, but it was adorable.
That's probably what I was voted in high school. Goofy, but adorable.
Well, you were, and it was very sweet. And I adore Greg. And I'm so glad he was on with us and that he said yes. And it was just a really fast hour because it just flowed. And it's a great episode. He was a great guest. And I'm so glad he joined us. That's all.
Yeah, and if for those of you listening out there, if you're like, boy, I forgot Oded Fehr voiced Dr. Fate, he will be at, I think, Day of the Dead, Chicago, the weekend before Thanksgiving. So if you're listening to this, if you've not had the chance to meet him, I'm going to try to drive up there Saturday because I've never met him. And I would love to get my Dr. Fate action figure signed. So if you're listening right now, that might be your chance. Head to Chicago the weekend before Thanksgiving. I think it's Day of the Dead Festival.
He was so good. He was really dynamite. Just the inflection in his voice. I really was enamored with that performance. And I'm glad you mentioned it because I don't think we mentioned it earlier.
His performance particularly?
Yeah. Well, I don't think we talked.
We talked a little bit about it. We talked a little bit, not his specifically, but you did mention when they were casting the spells, how cool that was to see them do all that and everything. But we didn't focus too much on him, but he's, as an actor, live action actor too, he's mesmerizing.
Well, and I think we were so captivated by the Grundy transformation and just that whole thing with Maria. So I think I got a little carried away on that. So, So, okay, now look at us with another one in the can. So, and we were talking, you and I were talking how much we want to hear that from the fans with their reviews of the podcast. We really, really want you to be engaged with us. So please subscribe to the podcast and please leave a review. We read them all. We share them all. James and I want your feedback and we need your feedback to see what you're looking for from this podcast. And because we enjoy it so much and we just want to know that you're enjoying it and that you're tuning in and what your takeaway is.
Yeah,
right?
I do love after the episode drops on Tuesdays, we do get people responding who goes, oh my gosh, I love this part about the episode. So we read all those. We sincerely do really appreciate the questions we got tonight. This was, we love the questions from you guys. We try to put that out, if I remember correctly, because sometimes I'm just scatterbrained and forget. But we do appreciate.
You have a lot going on.
Yeah.
No, you have a lot going on. It's not being scatterbrained. You're busy. Yeah. You're very, very, very busy.
But it's always gratifying that we have people who care enough to send in questions for our guests and about the episodes, and that you're hopefully sharing this show with your friends who's like, oh, you like Justice League? Check out this podcast. And I always talk to people at comic book stores who said, oh, Justice League's cool. Like I had a comic book store, Comic Relief in St. Charles. I went in and showed them, hey, we're doing a podcast. The guy looked at the little flyer. His eyes lit up. He said, you're bringing in Phil LaMarr and Susan Eisenberg? I said, yeah, they're on the list. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm coming to this. There's no question. So it's really sweet that there's such love for this series out there. And hopefully this little podcast we're doing is enhancing your experience of enjoying the show again.
Oh, I hope so. Right. That's why we started on this journey together.
Yeah.
All right. So for you, let's do you first this time. So people want to find you? They want to know what's happening with you. They like you. Where can they find you?
I can be found across social media at Geek to Me Radio, GeekTomeradio. We do a live radio show every Sunday night consistently at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. So if you want to follow us on YouTube or Facebook.com/GeekToMeRadio, you can tune in when we have video. My executive producer, Joey V, who also helps me out a great deal with this show, he'll stream video. So we've got our guests will be on video. We've had Phil Morris joined us. I had a great conversation with him. Literally every single one of the 7 Justice League members have been on with me. So you can go to geektomeradio.com and find the archives for our previous shows. If you want to hear my interview with Carl Lumley or with Kevin Conroy, or several times Susan has been on there. Sometimes I'm not even on. She just takes over. But we're doing that. And
you should never have given me the address to the studio.
I'm just saying.
That was your mistake, because
changing the locks
on a Sunday night.
That was a low move. But I couldn't even get in. The code had been changed. How do you even do that? That's incredible. I didn't know you were that
talented,
tech savvy. But so yeah, that's where you can find me for everything. And what about you?
Well, people can find me at Susan Eisenberg 1, the number 1, on any platform or most platforms. And I have a website called SusanEisenbergVoice.com, and people can check out like my demo reels or things I've been in before or things I have coming up on the site. So I'm pretty proud of it. I love it. So if you want to go on there, it's an open invitation, and you can also communicate with me. You can email me and I will email you back. I really try to stay on top of that. If I haven't written back, it's because I've been doing this cross-country journey and I've been a little busy, but I promise I will get to it. So don't give up if I haven't written you back. I promise I will. And that's where you can find me.
And if you are liking this podcast, I want to put it on your radar now for Memorial Day weekend 2025. The number 2 Rivers Comic Con. 2 Rivers Comic Con is bringing Susan Eisenberg, Phil LaMarr, and Maria Canals-Barrera. Not to mention Dan Reba's showing up. We've also got Alan Burnett, who did Batman Beyond, who did Ozzy and Drix, who did Justice League Action, and so many more. We're having them come along with a cadre of comic book writers and artists to historic St. Charles Memorial Day weekend, 23rd through the 25th. We've got Roy Thomas coming for crying out loud. We've got Mark Bagley, one of my very favorite Spider-Man artists of all time. Chuck Patton, who did Justice League and Teen Titans. He worked on television shows like Todd McFarlane's Spawn. A lot of cool people coming to this. So put that on your calendars. You can go to the number 2 riverscomiccon.com to get your tickets, which are on sale. They're early bird pricing. The tickets are going to go up around Christmas time. So make sure if you want to come, make sure you get your tickets early, and we will see you at that event.
Fantastic. All right. So that's our business for today. That's another one in the can, as we say. And we thank you for tuning in and listening and sharing this time with us and Greg Miller. And everyone out there, you be safe, take care, and stay tuned, because the conversation continues.